Hi everyone, welcome to the round 4 game of the Zurich Chess Challenge between Magnus Carlsen and Fabiano Caruana. Man, for some reason it's hard for me to say Fabiano's name completely. It's like a tongue twister. Fabiano Caruana. I don't know why. Try and say it 10 times real fast. You'll see what I mean. Either that or I'm crazy. Anyway, this was my favorite of Carlsen's games. It was not the most famous of his games. I think the most famous game from this tournament was his game with Nakamura, which was just like a crazy game, you know? But this one I loved, and I'm going to show you pretty much the whole game. So let's start from the beginning, because this is typical Carlsen at his finest. So we have the Rey Lopez, and then we have the Berlin defense. Now, Carlsen tries to avoid going into the Berlin endgame, which kind of starts like this. I always forget. Yeah. Wait, I totally made the wrong moves, right? No, I didn't. Knight f5, queen takes queen, and so on. He generally plays d3, which leads to a more protracted battle. But now he did something a little different. He went for kind of an exchange Lopez pawn structure. And I know Michael Adams has used this type of system on occasion. And, you know, white always does have a better pawn structure because these pawns are a bit weak. However, black has the two bishops. So, in general, it's considered approximately even. But black has plenty of chances for play in these lines, as does white. So black played the move knight to d7, which to me is always a strange move. It's kind of... The point is, I guess these squares are a little weak. Maybe the knight wants to maneuver to e6. Maybe we want to be able to go f6 sometimes. And there's not really any great square to develop this bishop to. Like if we go here, maybe knight g5 or something. I'm not a big expert, but I know that people who play these lines for black are often just playing knight to d7. It's a very strange looking move. Bishop e3, and now we're pretty much out of theory after like one more move. And this is typical Carlsen. He just defines a way to avoid opening theory as quickly as possible. So bishop e3, bishop d6. Again, black doesn't really want to trade because then he gives up his two bishop advantage. He wants to hold on to the bishops. Knight c5, castles, knight f8. So now the knight's hoping to have a strong point on the d4 and the f4 squares. But okay, now is when I really like how Carlsen plays. First, I guess pause your video, try to figure out what you would plan here for white. Like, what kind of idea should white go for? So, I really like what Carlsen does here. I look at the position, it's not like super easy to figure out a great plan. There's a lot of decent moves, but he goes knight to d2. With the plan of f4. Making perfect sense, opening up lines for his rook. So, I like this idea. Black stops f4, however, with knight g6. White goes knight to c4, a useful move. Maybe someday we'll take the bishop off, even though it will fix black's pawns. At least we have that option. We'll put some pressure on e5, and it's just a nice square for the knight. Bishop e6, and now again, he wants to go f4. So he's very single-minded. He just goes knight to e2. He's not scared of this exchange. The pawns are identical now, as you can see. But take a look at these bishops. This bishop is just blocked by his own pawns, whereas ours is attacking and is not blocked by the pawns. And so therefore white should just be better. So we have no concern about this, what looks like a weakening of our pawns. In fact, in all positions like this type of bishop takes knight move just doesn't usually work out so well. So black just went queen to d7. And now, white wanted to go f4, but before doing so, captured the bishop, and then played f4. Now we're threatening f5, so black had to take, white took, black took, and white took with the rook. Now what I love about this game is it was just a totally normal opening. From what I was looking at, Fabiano did nothing clearly wrong to me, but somehow his position just becomes very difficult. And it's, you know, I haven't studied the game super deeply, but it's not so obvious what the hell happened. So right now, the position looks still pretty balanced. However, black has one problem. Well, first of all, castles is a normal-looking move, but then white has a way to gain some initiative. What would that be? Pause your video, try to figure it out. And if you said d4, you would be correct. If white takes, we can take with the queen. The d6 pawn is weak. If he doesn't take, we're threatening d5, trapping the bishop. We're threatening pawn takes pawn. So I think just white has some small edge here. So he played the move b6. What is his idea after d4 now? Probably he would want to go like just super solid with f6. And the point is now we're not threatening to take this. And if d5, we can move the bishop back and maybe castle next move. Carlson does something else though. He plays queen to h5. Another strong move in my opinion, because now if black castles, white has a strong attack after rook h4, probably a winning attack. h6, bishop takes, pawn, pawn takes, queen takes. It looks like basically black is going to get checkmated here. So, I mean, you know, it's funny. I haven't seen the mate yet, but I'm sure it's here. It's impossible that this position is okay. I can't see the mate. It's very strange. Huh. But, you know, even if somehow, I'm probably missing something, but even if we somehow can't take on h6, maybe just rook f1, and we're threatening to take later, it's a very strong attack for white. So the king suddenly isn't so safe on the king side. So black played in the center with d5, and now try to find white's next move again. What I like about this game is Carlson made many very typical strong moves. Like first, this kind of going for f4. I think it was a really good plan, opening up the f line for his rooks, and you can see he's using this f file right now to put pressure on the king, going back and forth with the rook if needed, if black castles. But now the point is, black is not castled. We are. Our position's safer. What do you always look for in moments like that? Opening up the position. Therefore, white played the move d4, grabbing space in the center. If pawn takes, bishop takes, we have open lines everywhere. So black is not castled. Needs to keep things closed, or else he could face a major attack, because he is hugely lagging behind in development. So he played c4, trying to close things up, and now white played b3, again trying to open it up, trying to take, followed by d5. So our plan is to take this, and after black takes, to play d5. If white takes, black takes the a rook, a pawn. We have an open file for a rook now. We're threatening to take on d5 and push our pawns up the board. It's just kind of getting unpleasant. So black played the move queen to c6 to be able to take on c4 with the queen. And white just continued to play strong, logical moves. What move comes next? Pause your video, try to figure it out. And yes, rook a to f1, simply threatening to sacrifice on f7. Because bishop takes, queen takes, the attack is monstrously strong. I mean, we're only down an exchange and the black king is running around the board. So black has to figure out what to do here. If castles, we have rook h4 again. So you got to get that king safe somehow, so he castles queenside. And now what should white do? Very logical play from beginning to end by Carlson. First he takes this pawn. The pawn cannot recapture because of d5. So black takes with the queen, and now a very strong practical move. Sacrificing the exchange with rook f7, bishop f7, rook f7. And now we control this 7th rank. And we have a pawn. So we sacked an exchange, but we have a pawn for it, and we're threatening things like queen f5 check and bishop f4, and this king is wide open. So black tries to trade rooks. White took it. And now, I mean, he has moves like queen g4 check, queen f5, all these moves are fine. He actually played pawn takes pawn. And now white has 2 pawns and a bishop for the rook. Also a king, which is wide open. And a pawn, which is 3 squares away from queening. And in my opinion, while the computer may say it's about even this position, or white's a little bit better, from a practical standpoint, I think white's just going to win a large majority of the time. Let's just see how things ended up. And by the way, if queen takes pawn, queen g4, this king can't go to the back rank, really. It's like queen g7. There's just nowhere good to go. If king c7, queen takes g7, check. If king e8, queen g7 probably is, or maybe even queen e6 check. I'm not sure exactly, but this position is just a nightmare. We're just going to make a queen, bishop g5. So he couldn't take, so he played g6, attacking our queen. Queen g4 check. Queen e6, planning to go d6, winning the queen. Queen check. Queen e4. At this point, it's just a matter of slowly pushing our pawns up and using our pass pawn in combination with the weak black king. And it's a very difficult position for black to defend. d6 check. And now we just defend the pawn. We have a pawn on d6. Just black's going to have a hard time dealing with that. And now white makes some calm, improving moves. Just goes king h2, gets his king a little safer, gets his bishop a little safer, moves it onto a square where it's defended, so that never will black have a move that just suddenly attacks that bishop. So Carlsen's realizing he can be really patient here, improve his position as much as possible, and only then try to win. And try to like make the decisive blow, pretty much. Queen d3 check, c4. This looked a little risky because queen c6, and it's like, okay, now what? How do we defend this pawn? But white can simply go queen to b3. With the idea if queen takes pawn, d7. Boom. If the rook moves up, we queen. If the queen takes the queen, we take the rook. So queen takes c4 just loses. And therefore, black has to go... black played king a8 to get out of this pin. But again, a4, and if queen takes pawn, still d7. Rook e8, a5. White's starting to crash through now. If black takes, we have connected pass pawns in the middle of the board. These are too powerful. They will just come up the board in unison and eventually make a queen. Played king back to b7. c5. This is just almost winning already. A takes, and now a very nice final blow, although white can win in many ways. d5. After queen takes pawn, queen a4. We're attacking the rook. We're attacking d7, check, which would make a queen. Rook e3 was played. d7's probably winning too, but he played queen a8, queen b7, and only now d7. Check, the rook blocks, and then the final blow, queen to c8. And if queen takes, pawn takes, king takes, bishop takes e7, black is down a bishop. There's no point in playing on, so Fabiano resigned. So I just thought this was a superb game from beginning to end. While the Nakamura game was more exciting in some sense, this was like incredibly well played. I mean, this position is just a totally standard looking position, and he comes up with just a simple plan of going f4, and he just single-mindedly goes for it. And all of a sudden, this position, it looks kind of even, but it's not. White has an initiative, a very clear one. We have idea of d4, and if castles, rook h4. I think already the position is very unpleasant to play for black, and which is amazing because it was just like a normal opening position, and just Carlsen found a way to make it as hard as possible. So b6, and the other key was, okay, this is a typical move, king in the center, keep the position open. But what I like here is this position, this intuitive sacrifice. You cannot calculate it all the way to the end. However, if you're a strong player, what you can do is you can realize that this position is good for white. And it's very important to be able to evaluate positions, because this is not so obvious. But the more you look at it, the more you realize that at this point, maybe black has some defensive chances, but he was facing a very, very uphill battle, in my opinion. I have not looked at any annotations for this game whatsoever. I'm curious to take a look at them. I just came up with this on my own. Maybe they're saying something else on the internet. I'm going to find out, actually. Because, they always kind of like run the game through Houdini, find a mistake that, Caruana made, and then just be like, oh, he should have done this. But I don't know, man. I think that he was just having a very difficult time of things. Let me take a look. So it says about Carlson's game. Is it annotated? For some reason, no. Oh, wait. Why didn't they annotate the Carlson game, those jerks? Such a wonderful game. Man, on the website, they annotated the other 2 games and not Carlson's on chessbase.com. I just thought it was a very crystal clear, smooth performance. So I hope you guys like this game too. I know it's sometimes my annotations are a little more based towards advanced players. Like it probably just requires a long discussion to explain why this position is good for white. You know, anyone under 2,000, it shouldn't be obvious. I understand that. So I mean, there's so many people out there annotating these games, like Chess Explained, King Crusher, for a few examples of other video pages. You know. I try to just kind of focus on the moments that touched me as an international master. The moves that when I saw them, I was like, that's a good move. And that's something that, you know, you should remember. And I'm trying to really focus in on those moments and kind of show them to you guys. So thanks for watching, and I will see you tomorrow with the last round. Bye-bye.